Welcome to the Acceptable Accuracy Podcast. I'm Philip,
And I'm Tyler. What's up, everyone?
and today we're going to be talking about what, Tyler?
Dude, we are going to talk about firearms/range technology that's innovated the game.
This is a topic that is true to my heart because for those of you who've listened in the past, you know that I work in the technology industry. And when we were like throwing out ideas for things to discuss on the podcast, this one popped up because I was just working on some tech and I was like, "Oh, that's a great idea." And let's talk about how technology has innovated firearms in the past 30 to 40, even 100 years, right? Versus what like our great grandparents were doing and how it can make
I
us
know,
better
right? I
shooters.
mean, I was going to make a joke, but I'll make the joke later in the podcast when we bring it up. I'm actually really excited to use it. And watch, once I say it's going to be an absolute dud, and you're going to be like, that's what you hyped it up about. I'm going to
Well,
say, yes.
you have to understand though, Tyler, I love dad jokes and I laugh at really cheesy jokes. So
Well,
I'm
good.
I'm I'm sure I'll get a kick out of it. Or maybe I'll just go like completely deadpan.
Yeah, you're just
Just
gonna be like,
because.
really? That's it. Yeah, I'm gonna hype it up. I'm gonna say it's like, ready for the joke now. You ready for the joke now? Oh
It's funny
man.
because speaking of tech, this week I was ordering some acceptable accuracy podcast Velcro patches because, as we know, Tyler, the most important thing about going to the range is looking cool.
Oh, 100% flannel father.
So if we don't look cool and we don't have patches, no one will know that we're cool.
No one's gonna
So
know who we are.
that's fantastic. So I ordered. Well, with patches, they'll know. It's like having a name that says, "Hello, my name is Tyler." Or
Exactly. We should get those made too with our names on it.
there you go. That way, I'll remember who you are. So
Exactly.
I
Well,
ordered
you
them.
keep introducing yourself as Tyler, so
That's fair. I don't even know who I am. Some half the time. But
the
I
thing is,
ordered
you get
them.
me. Go for it.
I'll say I ordered them on Amazon, and it's funny because when you order it, it says that like you're getting two pieces. But I wanted to make sure we had at least two patches. So I wasn't sure if it was like the front of like the patch and the Velcro backing that it comes with, or is it two
hmm
Velcro things? I don't know. It was not very clear. So I ordered two. So I made it with four. I made it with two. We'll never know.
What can't you get off of Amazon, man? That's crazy to me. That's cool that you're able to do that, and you
Firearms.
don't have to. Because yeah,
Yeah.
I think of how a lot of times when you order patches or anything custom, you gotta bulk order it. So it's really cool that you're able to do so, like be able to order two or four or whatever.
Right.
So
They're not
I,
like the cool rubberized ones. They're like printed on. But like it's the type that like Brent did with our Wolverine 5K team. Those actually
oh,
turn out
for
pretty good.
sure.
So
Yeah, and plus it'll
we'll
be
see.
good
They'll be
to
good to
have
upgrade.
anyway, and we can upgrade to rubberized ones later on. And I know rubberized ones, you're looking at a super long wait time. How long is a wait time for these ones production
Not
time?
bad. So it says they'll arrive early May, like May 7th, I think is when they're supposed to arrive. So
Oh
my
wow,
guess is
so
they're probably being
two
printed somewhere
weeks.
in China, and then they're
hmm
already printed, and then you got to ship them overseas. So it's going to be a hot minute. But
Yeah, no
anyway,
kidding.
let's speaking of tech, let's jump into our topic today. And we're going to start talking about firearms tech. Did you have anything to add, Tyler, to the like ideas around technology before we jump into the individual technologies themselves?
I mean, what do you mean by that? Can you expound on that question?
Like earlier when I was saying that we've used technology recently within the past I said like 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years whatever to improve our ability to shoot, right? So I'm
hmm
curious about like your other thoughts on technology in general use at the range. Like has it made us, are we better for it or are we relying on it as a
Hmm.
crutch?
Hmm. No, that's actually a really good question. I would say overall, we are better shooters today than we ever have been. I do not doubt that at all. And I believe a good part of that, we actually referenced this in our previous episode with Kyle and Paul, and how we have USPSA shooters now. We have competitive shooters who have, because that is their sole focus, we are significantly better now. And I do believe technology does play a role into it, and we'll definitely talk more about it as we get into the topics. Like, spoiler alert, I think of dry fire tools, how because of that we dry fire more today than we ever have, because and I believe that has is more I hate to say that it's a controversial topic, but it is, because I know a lot of military and police, they don't like dry fire. I don't want to say a blanket statement, but there are definitely big. Okay, better way to put it: there are big names who happen to be police officers and military who are YouTubers who frown upon dry fire training. So
That's
I'll
weird
kind of
to me.
leave it at that. I know I'm not going to name drop them, but they do talk about that. I disagree, because I do know, like, 22 long rifles, you can't dry fire those, but pretty much everything else you can. So why not do it? And there are so many tools now because it's free. So I don't want to get too much into dry fire, but I think of other
Yeah.
technology as well. So kind of moving on. I digress.
Well, the thing I kind of think about too, Tyler, is that if you think of firearms, they're
Yeah.
very much an analog thing, right? Like typically, right? It's your you fire, and it's very much like a tool, right? Like what we consider like a classical tool, right?
Yeah.
Where it's everything's kind of analog and mechanical. Mechanical is probably the word I'm looking for. So it's interesting to me that we have taken this very like mechanical tool and we've added, like, everything else is modernized in our world, right? Like
Yep.
we've added electronics to just about every manufacturing process that we can think of, right? Unless you're like
Hmm.
an artisan, whatever. So why not add it to firearms? So I guess it's one of the reasons why I really wanted to touch on this, and why technology is not something that we should shy away from.
No, of course not, because the whole
I'm
point
looking
of
at you,
technology, it makes it
Brian.
easier for us. Wait, what?
Well, Brian doesn't like using red dots, but
Oh, yes. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It's so true. He prefers his little nubbins.
yeah. All
Oh,
right. Anyway, so
Brian. Love you, brother.
let's
Go
kind of
for it.
step into it real quick, and we'll start off with the first item that I've got on my list, Tyler. And this is by no means an extensive list. If we forgot something, that's on us. It's 9:30 on a Friday night, and
9:30, dude, it's
we've been
9:55.
9:55 on a Friday night.
It took
We've
us
been working all week.
25 minutes just to prep for some reason. We're like, "Hey, bro,
Oh,
9:30, let's record, let's just go." It's like, "Nope."
and it's funny because we end up like chatting, and then we're like, we should have recorded this on the podcast. Like, we should have just gone for it because some of
We'd
the
be
like
done by now.
so the
I'm
candor is
kidding.
pretty good. Okay, electronic ear pro. So this one to me is probably the one of the biggest game changers when on the range. In the past, whenever, because if you think about when you're shooting firearms, there's inherently a danger with firearms. Even I shouldn't say even if you're following the firearm safety rules, the likelihood of something happening is extremely low, but still possible. Like I think about like not trying to get too deep into the woods, bad things that can happen, but like let's say there's a double charge in a round and it blows up a gun. Like that is for the most part, unless you've double charged it yourself, out of your control.
Mhm.
But I always think of from a safety perspective, electronic hearing protection has made it so much easier to communicate at the range. Because I remember the first time I started shooting, I didn't have electronic hearing protection because it wasn't as affordable as it is today.
Mhm.
And it makes it without it, it makes it difficult to hear people, and it makes the ranges feel almost more isolated. By having electronic hearing protection, we've allowed for like more social interaction while we're hanging out at the range, right? If that makes sense.
I agree. Yeah, well, and it keeps it safer, because now, once again, especially for us, we're able to communicate with each other, and anytime we're in a situation where maybe we bring someone who's not as experienced or as trained, we're able to communicate with them and communicate any safety concerns. And we're able to give instruction without them saying, "What? Can you repeat that again? What'd you say?" And yeah, it's like, hey, we're keeping it safe. We're able to communicate, and we're able to just have a blast. So I guess what are some electronic ear pros that you have used and what you like, and maybe what you don't like?
Yeah, so I actually keep two sets of electronic ear pro with me at all times. And
Okay.
actually I keep the second set with me just in case the first one I have issues with, right? Number one, I always, want a backup pair, just have a back pair of glasses in my bag. Any protection items, I
Mm-hmm.
always have a backup pair.
Yeah.
The other reason is if I'm at the range with somebody who's new and they don't have electronic hearing protection, then I will give them my secondary pair of electronic hearing protection.
Yes.
My
Mm-hmm.
personal primary pair, I have a set of Walker's silencers, and they're a little controversial because they use a hearing aid battery. And once you open the hearing aid battery or remove the tab off the back of it and put in the hearing protection, they're really only good for 2.5 weeks. And then after that, the battery runs out and you got to swap them,
That's
which can be,
crazy, man.
yep, can be really annoying. Thanks to
Mm-hmm.
Costco for having like 9.99 for like 36 batteries or something like that. Of course, that was 2 years ago when I bought my last batch. So
Yeah.
probably like 24 batteries for $34 or something like that now. But
So are you going to be upgrading to a pair of like Walkers 2 that are rechargeable now?
I think I'm gonna keep what I have now until they break
That's
because they,
fair.
yep, they still work. But the reason I
Hmm.
switched to the in the ear ones was twofold, right? And that the thing that's really crazy to me is the fact that we can even have electronic hearing protection that goes in our ears and
Hmm.
provides like shot silencing, but also allows for amplified communication. Because if you think about it, like the concept of the AirPods and like in ear stuff has existed for a while, but I think the Walker silencers were even out before like AirPods were out. They've been out for a little while now. But I like them. Number one because they're smaller. They don't hurt my head like a pair of like a headset, traditional headset of or earbuffs would, right? They also when I'm firing a rifle because of my face geometry, I find that the over the ear type will tend to bump my ear probe back and not do their job. So you can only blow your hearing so many times before you have issues, and some people would argue you do it once and now you're having problems.
Yeah, that's crazy to me because yes, I agree with that. But going back to
Yep.
the over the ears, how I know three people where have the exact same issues as you, where putting over the ears, it gets in your way when you're shouldering a rifle. And yet for me, I'm like, no issues. No
Yeah.
issues at all. Weird positions, prone, fetal, prone, under, whatever position I'm shooting.
Roll over prone.
Over, yeah, modern pro. I don't even know. I'm making up names at this point. And yeah,
Call of Duty prone.
oh man, oh yeah, yeah,
Big
yeah.
diving prone.
I mean, this one doesn't do it, but like, I know Warrior Poet, the junkyard prone or whatever they like to call it now. I'm like, okay, thanks, Rifle 3. And it's like, I don't know, no issues. It doesn't move. It stays there. And it's cool because now Phil knows this and how I love my over the ears to wear in my plate carrier that I added this attachment that connects to my radio, my communications, where now it's like a little attachment that's actually like a microphone that sticks out that'll connect to my over the ears, and now I'm able to use that and I can communicate with my radio and no one can hear. Like when someone's trying to communicate to me, only I can hear it. Unless you're on that frequency, obviously. So I love it. No issues at all. I'm able to climb walls, whatever, and shoot. Okay. So I don't know. It's all I'd say. I'm really thankful and really blessed to where over the years worked just fine for me.
Um, yeah, and the other thing I like about the in-ear ones, maybe I already said this, but during the summer, it gets really hot out, and having that like the band with like the suction cups over your ears, and like you just get really hot and sweaty. And
Hmm.
you obviously vent out a lot on top of your head, so it's nice to just have the in the ears. Now they're not perfect because after a while, some people will find them to be painful, like when
Yeah.
you wear them inside your ears. I don't typically. I mean, when I take them out, I always feel like much better about life. But they're
Oh,
good.
for sure.
But Tyler, so you have the Howard lights. Oh, this is the other thing, real quick, is they do make different types of over the ear hearing protection that actually have a cutout for a rifle. So when you're shouldering the rifle, there's a slight
Oh,
cutout.
interesting. Really?
I
Oh, I
think it's
didn't
like
know that.
the Peltor's,
Well,
like
they're Peltor, so that makes sense.
even the low end Peltors, I'm actually looking at getting a pair of low end Peltors that are about the same cost as the Howard Lights. Even those have a little
Interesting.
cutout for a rifle buttstock that are supposed to at least help a little bit.
Hmm.
Um,
But
but anyway, so you got a
yeah.
new set of in ear because you want to be like the cool kids. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so I did end up getting a set of in-ears. So when it comes to Electronic Ear Pro, I have three at the moment. My first pair was over-the-ear Walker Razors, and I didn't like those 10,000 foot view because I found out that they are in stereo instead of mono. So I have no idea, like I can hear, but I have no idea where people are talking. One time, Phil and I were shooting at the range, and Phil said hi, and I looked left when he was in fact on my right. And Phil's like, "Where are you looking?" I'm like, "I'm looking for you." And I look, it's like, "Oh, there you are." I was so confused.
Do
So,
the do the
what's up?
do the walkers only have a single like microphone?
So they have a microphone on both sides,
So why
but
are
you
they
don't,
mono?
but you don't really know where they come from. Maybe I'm
That's
wrong,
weird. No,
but
I've heard the same thing from other people before.
yeah, well, I'm saying in the sense of the microphone itself. Maybe it does only have one, but it looks like there's two. That's why I'm a little confused with it. But I've definitely had that after that moment. I was like, okay, I need something that's stereo. And I noticed, I asked you, and you told me about Howard Lights, and I think Warrior Poet advertises them as well, and a couple other YouTubers. I was like, oh, okay, I'll get these Impact Sports, and I saw them on Amazon, and they're on sale like on for $25, and now they're like 60. So I'm very glad I have them. So the second set are my Howard Lights Impact Sports, which I've had those now for a couple years. They work great. And then, like Philip referenced, I decided to get a set of in ears. I've been eyeballing Axel X cores for a while. So they're don't confuse them with the GS Extremes or whatever it is, where it's two earbuds with a string behind that you can go behind your back. I'm not a big fan of that just because I don't know. I don't like the feeling of a piece of string just dangling around. I want
Yeah.
something where I can just stick it, I can put in my ears and I don't have to worry about it. So these are Axel X cores, which are very similar to the Walker silencers or AirPods or whatever, and they are typically, I think, I don't know, 250. Oh, $300. Okay, actually, I'm sorry. Okay, I remember now. They have two different options. You have a Bluetooth option and a non-Bluetooth option. The non-Bluetooth option is typically like $200, whereas the Bluetooth option is $300. And I saw them for sale like a few months ago, and the Bluetooth options were like, I don't know, 230, and I thought to myself, man, that's a great price. So I reached out to one of our buddies, Nathan, and he had a pair, and he told me he loved them, but he told me he'll get headaches occasionally after them. And I just thought to myself, man, do I really want something that's going to give me a headache? I don't know. So
Yeah.
go for
Each
it, go
person
for it.
I was just say each person's like ear like head geometry is different, ear geometry is different as well too.
So true. So and then a couple weeks ago, they had this spring sale that was 50% off. So non-Bluetooth version was $100 and the Bluetooth version was 150. And I thought to myself, man, I there's no way they can ever have a better deal. So I bit the bullet and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get it. So I went ahead and ordered the pair, and I used it for my first USPSA match a couple weeks ago, and they're great. I did notice that my ears hurt after probably about an no, they were pretty much right away. My ears definitely hurt
Mm,
wearing them, and they were the medium size tips, and they're foam tips, and they have a large and a small. So I tried the small, and comes out the small is way too small for my ear. I did not try the larges yet, but I don't see why the large would do any better
right.
if the mediums are hurting. So who knows? Maybe they have like another foam that might fit better. I haven't really looked much into it yet. Like I said, I've only had them for a couple of weeks, and I've only shot with them once, but they were great. I was able to talk to people. I was able to hear. One thing that I did notice, I wasn't a big fan of, is it doesn't work very well with the wind. I can hear the wind very
Mm.
easily. So, and it was a windy day. It was a very windy day at that match. I mean, we had targets falling, we had steel falling off. So we're like, okay, so it's not, it was significant. It was very windy that day. So I had a hoodie, thankfully put it up and no issues. So I like them. I like them a lot, but definitely I could see on a hot summer day, I would prefer to use those, but I don't know. I'm impartial to my impact sports right now, so I guess it's probably 50-50 right now for me.
Yeah, like we talked about, there's a lot of advantages. We've spent a lot of time talking about Ear Pro, but there's a lot of advantages
Yeah, I know this is our
to
first equipment out
you
of
know
8.
we may have to do 2 episodes on this. Um, there's a lot of advantage to having electronic hearing protection. There's a lot of advantages to having over the ear and in ear. Like over the ear, there's the advantage of having their stay put typically easier. Though I honestly have never had issue with the in ears falling out. With over the
Mm-hmm.
ear, it's easier to hook up comms equipment to it. Not saying you can't, like especially when you want more like private, quiet comms. Because like for me during a match that requires comms, like a team match, I have to have like a police type, radio unit because I can't
Mm-hmm.
interface them into my in ears unless somebody knows. I mean, maybe Bluetooth, but I feel like that wouldn't be reliable.
I
So
know. I mean, it'd be cool if there was an option, but I don't see how that's even. Yeah, I don't know,
yeah,
man.
yep. So we'll see. And then like obviously like I've got a ballistic helmet. Obviously I have a ballistic helmet that I need to figure out the ears on. The nice thing is I can just use my in ears ones for the now for the time being until I figure something out. You can also wear the Howard lights underneath. They work just fine. I haven't shot with that yet, but I'll probably have the same issue I had before with it bumping out of the way. All right,
Hmm.
Tyler. I think we have. I think our audience has heard enough about ear protection. What do you got next on your list?
The funny thing is, Philip and audience, we were actually going to do an episode dedicated on range PPE. I just
Oh, well,
realized
I
that.
guess
So, for those who want to learn more about range PPE or personal protective equipment, go to this episode. Even though, wait, you're already on this episode. And that's what I'm going to do when we get to that episode. It's like, hey, we're going to get to ear protection. Go to the electronics episode. We'll talk more about it there. Oh my goodness.
oops.
Okay. Wow. Can you tell it's late? This is great. All right. So, the next piece of technology would be something that our buddy Brian dislikes, which is the red dot. So, there's, man, especially when it comes to red dots, I mean, we could talk about red dots. I'm going to talk primarily on pistols right now. We can talk about ARs a little later, but
Yeah, I'll
or
talk about
carbines,
rifles
but
if you want to talk about pistols.
sure, I'll talk about pistols. You'll talk about rifles, and we're going to change our minds and switch right over. It's going to be great. So on a so when it comes to a red dot for okay, so there fun fact about Tyler. I have the weirdest eye dominance ever. When people ask me, Tyler, what eyes are dominant? I say yes because I am right eye dominant near and I am left eye dominant far.
And what handed are you, Tyler?
And I am a lefty.
Hmm.
So it is very confusing for me. So when I can use iron sights, but I struggle a little bit because I want to use my left eye when I'm looking at someone far away or a target far away, but I want to use my right eye when something's nearby, which is why I've trained to only use my left eye, but I still see double. Except when I use a red dot, I have no issues at all. What I love about a red dot on a pistol is the fact that I can target focus instead of dot or iron sight focus. So now I can always I can always focus on my target and my red dot's on there. Which funny enough, when chatting with Brian, that's exactly what he does with an iron sight, which is kind of crazy to me because that's in my opinion, that's really hard to do because your eyes don't naturally do that. So for him, he must have trained. Well, I know he's trained a lot more than me in shooting. He's been shooting significantly longer than I have, and he's able to hit 100 yards with an iron sight pistol. And I'm like, good for you, bro. I can't do that. I can do
Well,
the red dot.
fun fun fact about Brian is that he's got 3 eyes, so he can
What do
focus.
you mean? Wait,
I'm
what
j
do you mean by that?
I'm just joking. He doesn't really have 3 eyes. I was thinking
Okay.
about, like Doctor Strange with that 3rd eye in the
Yeah,
middle of the
he's
head.
got the third eye in the middle of his head. It's like, yeah, that's how good he is. That one goes way down. It's like, bam, that one has a laser. That's what it is. He's a
That's really
triclops.
that's wow.
So, um, so when it comes to a pistol red dot, I mean, I'm a big fan of it. I personally have a Holosun 507C that partnered with Primary Arms with the ACSS reticle, and the main reason why I like that is because I really like having the big circle on the outside. The I don't know, I'm gonna butcher. It. I think it's
Donut
like
of death.
yeah, the donut of death. It's a massive, massive MOA circle to where what's really nice is you're able to once you present, if you don't have a perfect presentation, you're going to see that donut. If you don't see it, that means you have a perfect presentation. And if you're off, it's really nice, so now you're able to quickly adjust. And I like having it because once again my context is a aware civilian, a civilian who wants to protect. So if I'm in a situation where if I ever have to draw my firearm, it's a situation where I've been ambushed or someone's been ambushed and I'm in a disadvantage. So I want to take every single advantage as I can because good tactics is cheating. So that's what I personally have on my gun. There's so many other different red dots in your context. I know our buddy Brent, he has a Holosun 507 competition, which is a massive window. And of course, you've got Trigicons, you've got what loopholds.
Gold, yeah.
Yeah,
Primary Arms makes their own, red dots
that's
as well too.
right.
Vortex makes some,
Hmm.
um, Seymour. I mean, there's a ton of different brands out there. Uh, 6 Hour, they make their own as well too. I'm sure we're
Yes, they do.
forgetting
Yep.
somebody.
There's so
Uh,
many, dude. I mean, you've got oh man, what's that? What's that? EOTech. Doesn't EOTech have a pistol red dot now? Or is
I
it
think so.
Aimpoint? I
I
think
know
so. I don't even
Aimpoint's got a
know.
bunch of them. They've had some for a while. Like they got
Yeah.
the mailbox type thing.
Yep,
Um, but yeah,
I
with
know.
pistol red dots, I also shoot pistol red dots as well too. Some people will say that they're a crutch, but obviously they're extremely popular now. It
Yeah.
allows you to really focus on. Again, people say it's a crutch, but it really should focus on the other fundamentals when you're shooting, and then not have to think about aiming quite as much, right?
Mhm.
Which all the
I th-
fuds got their
mhm.
panties in a bunch about this right now because they're like, "Oh, you should learn how to shoot irons," and I know how to shoot irons. I just really prefer to have a dot on my gun.
Which is crazy to me because I wouldn't say, in my opinion, I know for a fact shooting red dot is harder than shooting with irons.
No, I disagree with that. That's crazy.
No. It what do you mean by that? Because well, the learning curve. The learning curve of using a red dot is so much harder than using irons.
Yeah, I guess if to shoot irons like at a basic level is fairly simple because you're just lining up the nubbins, right?
Exactly. Whereas with the
But
red dot, you need to get a perfect presentation. If you don't, you are fishing around. You're
yes,
trying to find a red dot. Because I'll admit, when I shoot other people's red dots, because once again, now you need to not only think about the red dot, you also have to consider the different point of aims of the gun. Because
right.
for me, of course, I use the Shadow Systems, but which is a Glock Gen 4 clone, it I my natural the point of aim, the grip angle that I put on it is similar to more of like a M&P style. So it's more of like a neutral tang versus like that Glock comp. So if I grab
Hmm.
someone's Glock that has a red dot, I'm fishing because I'm not used to that red dot. I'm not used to that point of aim now. So it's completely different. Whereas like with irons, I can quickly adjust because like I'm just lining up the irons. Whereas with the red dot, like I have no idea where it is. Once if I pick up a
Well,
SIG, pick up an M&P,
yeah,
Glock, etc. So I can
that's
do it. It takes me a second to remember it
That's where I
or
think the
get used to it.
ACSS. Yeah, I think that's where the ACSS Vulcan reticle has really helped level the playing field. So
Hmm.
I preach that to anybody that's shooting into red dot. Because worst case scenario, you can turn it off. You don't have to have it on all times. And Primary Arms just
Hmm.
came out with a new ACSS I think they're still calling it the Vulcan, but it's a circle with a dot. So
Finally.
yes, so and it's a weird footprint. I forget which one it is. It's not the Trijicon one, like the
Oh, the
um
RMR cut, yeah. Is
yeah,
it like
yep,
a
the R mark.
well,
It's like a
what,
doctor cut, I think it is, but it's a different
okay.
cut. But so I always recommend
Huh.
everybody like look at one of those dots that's got the big old like donut of death on the outside to help you find your dot easier. Um, the one experience I had with shooting a dot was when I was first getting a dot, I looked into a ton of research. There wasn't as many options out as there is today, and I settled on the Leupold Delta Point Pro.
Mhm.
And I got it because it was considered like at a big window, was one of the best at the time. But per your comment about natural point of aim, I found myself constantly trying to fish for the red dot on it because for those who know who have shot a Delta Point, they sit pretty high on the gun, and it does
Mm,
not naturally present to me as well as the Hollow Sun does because it's much
yeah,
closer to the gun. Even though the window on the Hollow Sun that we have is much smaller, I can actually shoot that thing a lot better. And and
yeah,
people say, "Oh, it's just because you got used to it," but no, it's a lot closer to the gun because it's naturally the gun comes up and it sits right like naturally where it's at in my line of sight. So
that's awesome.
I'm not fishing for the red dot slash like chevron, right?
Yeah.
Um, do you have more
I
comments real
mean,
quick before we go into rifle?
yeah, I'll briefly say something. One con about a pistol red dot would be the emitters, because most red dots are open emitters, to where, for those who don't know, it's like a projector. It's a little at for most dots where it's closest to you at the bottom, there's a tiny little emitter, tiny little, where it actually pushes out to the glass. And a lot of times it's nice and open, so it's easy for dirt, dust, grime,
Mm-hmm.
humidity, rain, whatever, to get in there. And it's a pain to clean because it's so tiny. You gotta get like a Q-tip, or I use a lot of compressed air. People are gonna listen and say, "You're not supposed to do that. It's really bad for them." I'm like, dude, I gotta clean it out. It's better than being all crusty and dirty and whatever. So one solution that some companies have done, like I believe Stoger and of course Hollison and one other I can't think of, where they have a closed emitter, like specifically I know Holosun. I've been eyeballing it for a while. The Holosun 509T, and of course you have the Holosun EPS or EPS carry, depending on the size of your gun. How it is a nice closed emitter. The only problem is it's big, it's bulky, it's heavier, so it's definitely a trade off. But it is really nice to where you can just wipe it right off. So that's about all I got on pistol dots.
Yeah, and I again because if you're carrying, especially too, like you said, you get a lot of pocket lint
Yes.
or belly button lint or whatever
Oh
inside
yeah.
of your optic, and even at matches, I've never had an issue with this other than like rain. But
Hmm.
you can get through rain. It's not like as long as this doesn't really distort the dot itself from the emitter. But uh, I've heard of people being in matches that they're required to go prone, and if they don't have a shield for the actual like dot itself, they grime, like dirt will get in there and it's like a shovel, right? Like you get in there, you go down, like let's
Mm,
say you go prone and then you like shovel all that dirt right in your holster, right into where your red dot is. Now your firearm's not going to function quite as well. But like I use a Safariland holster for any kind of like competition that is more than USPSA. So something that's a little bit more like if I'm getting down and dirty, I'm doing like administrative tasks while I'm
mhm.
like reholstering guns or whatever. I'm using that one because it's got a cover for the optic, and that makes things just so much better. I've not had any problems with it. Knock on wood. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But going really quick into rifle red dots have been around longer than a pistol red dot has been just because of the size. They tend to be larger, though they don't have to be. A lot of people actually use pistol red dots on a rifle or pistol. I actually
Mhm.
have a pistol red dot on my shotgun. I have a Vortex on my shotgun. It's nice to have a little bit smaller size, but with a rifle, there's a whole ton of different. You can even have like not even just red dot. You can have holographics like sights that you can have for your rifle. There's a ton of different options for the how high you want it mounted, the type of if you want a tube or you want more of like an EOTech style where it's like a bigger window, or I think of even the Trijicon optic that's used by the military, and for some reason it's slipping my mind, but I'm gonna feel really embarrassed because I'm gonna think about it as soon as I'm done here. But
I
they
have
like the
no
one that's
idea,
basically
man.
it's a fixed like 3x like magnifier, but it
Oh,
also
it's like
has
an
like a
ACOG.
ACOG. Thank you.
Hmm.
So in that one, like I know there's some of them that use like natural light, blah blah blah, but the technology for red dots on rifles has actually been around a little bit longer than I think. Aimpoint was probably the first one to really come out with it, like the red dot, traditional red dot we're talking about right now. But lots of different options as far as that goes. I am of a firm belief that if you have the first optic you should get for a rifle is a red dot because it has a lot more usability from a home defense perspective, a range use perspective. 100, 200 yards with a red dot, it's not too difficult, especially on like even 200 a man sized target. And some people will say, "Oh, I can do 300. That's fine. Good on you." You know, on a man sized target, you probably do it as well too. Um, you can also put a magnifier behind it and increase your range a little bit with that as well too. So there's a lot of like flexibility, right, within
Hmm.
using a red dot. So I always recommend it over an LPVO to start, right? And they tend to be quite a bit cheaper as well too.
Oh, significantly cheaper.
Yep,
I
lighter
mean,
as well.
it is lighter. I think of once again, I'm a big Holliston fan. I'll be real.
Yep,
And you can get a Holliston, I think 403B, the tube style one. It has the buttons instead of like the knob. That's like 120 bucks, 130 bucks. It's
yeah.
very affordable,
I've
especially when
seen.
you're looking at when you're looking at like Magpul backup iron sights for what 60, 70 bucks. I'm like, well, for a few more, well, for 50 bucks more, I can get a red dot.
Right. Well, you
So,
can get like I think I forget the model it is, but from 6 Hour, I think it's a Romeo 5 maybe or
oh,
something like
Romeo
that.
Zero, maybe? Well, it's a
I don't know.
Romeo 3. Romeo 3.
You can get their optic at 99 bucks all the time. And from everything I've heard, I don't have them. Everything I heard, they work fine.
So I don't know how true it is, but I was told a 6 hour Romeo is just a rebranded Holosun.
Probably
Is
from
that
the same
true?
factory. No, I'm sure it is. And
Probably
it's really
is.
that's the other weird thing is it's really
Oh,
difficult to get.
Romeo 5. I was
Yes,
two
yeah,
numbers off.
yeah. So I was right. I'll take it. I can't.
Hmm.
I couldn't think of ACOG, so I'm redeeming myself.
Yeah.
But
There you go,
the
man.
challenge is there's a lot of people who want like American made or Japanese made or whatever. Maybe not Japanese made, but a lot of
The
these red dots seem to be
Korean.
made. Yeah, a lot of these red dots seem to be made in China, right?
Oh,
So that's the
yeah.
difficult thing. I can't speak for Trijicon. I don't own any of their red dots, but I think their whole thing is made in the United States. So a little more expensive, but if you want to buy US made, that's cool too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you
And
have
then
a Trijicon LPVO, so,
I do have a
right?
Trijicon LPVO, and that was actually intentional because I wanted to support an American company. And I know they're extremely durable. Like honestly, those scopes are probably made in Japan. These glasses I know is made in Japan. Um, but yeah, again with the rifle red dot similar to a pistol red dot, there are a bunch of different options you can get. I like the dot, the circle dot that the Holosuns have. I know a lot of people have them. Like
Mm-hmm.
obviously with EOTech, they're the kind of ones that like made that famous. I find it for sighting. I use that. I find it really good. I know Tyler, you don't. You just use the dot, but
I do. I like to keep the dot because I like to keep it nice and simple and able, once again, really target focused. So, and I know this is for the context of zeroing, but I really like to keep it nice and low when I zero. So, but that's
yeah,
a whole other story.
yep. And then just rounding out on the red dots, and I'm sure if you have any additional things to toss in there too, Tyler. But the one thing with red dots that can struggle with, uh, that you can do maybe a little bit better with irons, depending on the way that they're set up, the type of irons that they are. And a red dot, I know there's some stuff built in, especially EOTech. There's like ranging you can do, but there's no like with a scope. You get built-in hash marks into your reticle that can kind of help
Hmm.
you figure out where you're shooting at, right? With a red dot, that's a little bit more difficult to figure out. And then also if you have an astigmatism like I do, it tends to blur out a bit. So even if you were able to figure out where those were, like if it's a smear on the dot, like really great for up close, great up to 100, 200 yards, fantastic. But
Hmm.
beyond, it makes it a little bit more difficult. I know the EOTechs, they have like a within the reticle itself, there's a way to range based on the outside ring itself as well too. So, and I know there's some dots out there that like I think it's Primary Arms actually has one that has multiple dots in it that you can use for 5.56 to help range as well, which is kind of
Hmm.
cool. So you could put that behind an magnifier and actually shoot out to like I think it goes out to 500 or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
All right. So, question for you.
Yeah.
So, LPVO versus red dot magnifier.
That sounds like a great episode coming up down the road for us, Tyler. That topic has been really like beat to death, and I think there is application for both, right? So another reason I got the Trigicon scope that I got, LPVO that I got for my rifle, was because getting a daylight bright red dot within my LPVO or any
Hmm.
LPVO, you're gonna pay for it. The
Yeah.
technology is not. It's getting closer, and a lot of companies will claim that they have daylight, but the truth is it maybe in like an overcast day you can see it, but in a bright
Hmm.
sunny day, a lot of these you can't see it when it's lit up. Whereas like you're looking at spending $700 and above if you're going to get a daylight bright
Yeah.
illuminated reticle on a LPVO. My
Yeah.
primary competition rifle has LPVO on it because in those competitions I use it for, we shoot anywhere in from like 10 feet all the way out to 500 meters or 500 yards,
Hmm.
depending on the
Hmm.
competition.
Yeah. Do you know what my answer is?
Iron sights?
I'm not Brian.
No sights.
I know, right? Uh,
Passive aiming.
just kidding, Brian. We love you, bro. So, it's whatever I shot last.
No, that's
I
fine.
love them both. I love them both so much. Well, I like Philip said. Same with my competition rifle. It's LPVO. It's a 1 to 6 primary arms LPVO, and it's. But every time I shoot someone else's red dot, I'm like, man, I
I
miss having
know.
doing just a red
Yeah.
dot. I forgot
I
how much easier this is. At least up close and quick. Up close and quick. But for almost, I feel like every other context, it's really nice to have LPVO.
I love shooting a red dot. And
Oh
I have been
yeah.
tempted so many times to look at the primary arms option with a magnifier behind it because I do
Hmm.
find that personally that's a lot faster. Now I shot like a lot of PCC and USPSA. Don't judge. Um, with
Cheater.
with a PCC with a red dot, and I shot a lot of steel challenge with it. My like some of my best scores in any firearm sport is with a red dot on a PCC. Like I
Yeah.
was hitting
What
master level scores and iron on steel challenge with it.
I was just about to ask that. Wow, that's crazy. Holy cow.
Yeah, I'm not. I
No
can't do that
wonder
anymore.
you're a better rifle
I'm not.
shooter than me.
I'm not that fast anymore, though. I've definitely slowed down quite a bit. I used to be really quick on the rifle, but
That's crazy,
um,
dude.
anyway, all that
But
to say, I'm sure that there'll become a solution at some point where, or maybe, hey, if you're listening to this and you have a great solution for shooting a red dot at long range with a magnifier behind it, leave us a comment on Instagram or send us a message. I'd appreciate it.
yeah, exactly. And Instagram, stop censoring us.
Dude, every time
It's
I go to like this is I don't speaking of technology and shooting, every
man.
time I go to post a video, like I get flagged like you must take this down. It's got illegal substances in it. And I look at their list and it's nothing in that list at all. So then I like delete the Instagram post because otherwise you get like zero reach or whatever. I delete the post and then they immediately flag another video. I'm like, come on, like clearly the Instagram does not like firearms enthusiasts
No, of course
at
not.
all.
But
It's
all
gone
right,
meta.
moving on. So,
Yep.
all right, Electronic Gear Pro, Red Dot, and what is next, Philip? What you got for us at our
All right.
44-minute mark?
Yes, Tyler, I think we should make this a two-part episode.
I think we
Um,
need. Yeah,
yeah,
how about you? Because we had a total of 8 so far. So why don't we do
yeah,
4 and 4? So we'll do
perfect,
two more, one more each, and then this is part one.
awesome. Uh, so what are you gonna do for your last one today, Tyler? Because I might pick the one I'm gonna do to talk about next, based on that.
I'm going to talk about the shot timer, bro.
Okay, so I will actually talk about. Actually, let's have you start with the shot timer, Tyler, and then I will round us out with
Because I already brought it up.
I know. Well, I'll round us out with practice score because the two of those kind of go hand in hand.
That's actually a really good point. All right, that's fair. Okay, so yeah, so shot timer. One thing. So I'm a nerd. I'll admit it. I love being able to have objective numbers to know that I am actually making progress. I love the fact that I now have a shot timer and I'm able to know, like, hey, how fast are my draws? Hey, how are my split times? Hey, how consistent am I? So I love having a shot timer. Do I write it down? No, I'm not that big of a nerd. I'm like a nerd who gets B's because actually C's actually C's get degrees, right? But I probably should write it more down. But my I have been fighting. I have been chasing that sub-second draw from concealed at appendix. I've been fighting. I'm getting there. I'd say I can. Okay, from cold, I can easily do like a 1.2 from appendix and probably get it alpha, maybe a Charlie. So, but pretty consistently. But I'm really trying to get like at from cold, get that sub second draw and hit that alpha. I haven't done it yet, but I'm fighting for it, man. So all that to say, I love the shot timer.
Yeah, and the shot timer, as we've known, it's actually been out for quite a while, and I think it was mainly I don't know what came first. If I mean, obviously, competition shooting's been around for a while, but if you
Oh
think about
yeah.
the style of like USPSA or IDPA shooting that rely on a timer, you could hand time that thing with a stopwatch.
hmm
But when you're talking about scores being like really close by the point of milliseconds, right?
hmm
Then it's super important to have an accurate shot timer that you can use to record a course of fire. Now there are a ton of other uses for shot timers, but I think about and again maybe that's why it was developed. The old school shot timers, Tyler, used to be massive. They were like a book size.
Really?
They were so
Oh
big.
my goodness.
But and they also have shrunk down in size
Oh,
now
it's
too,
crazy.
to the point where your traditional shot timer that records the sound of a shot is the size of a cell phone, if not smaller.
hmm
And it's Bluetooth, which allows you to
That's
connect to a
crazy.
tablet during match. And spoiler alert,
Well,
practice
now
score.
yeah. Well, now they have timers on watches, right?
Yes, that's really interesting. I just heard about this one maybe a month ago, where the guys that actually developed practice score came up with a shot timer that you can use on your Apple Watch. And the way I understand it is it doesn't actually use the like any kind of audio capability, but it actually uses the motion of your wrist under recoil to properly record your splits, your draws, those kind of things, which is wild to me that they were able to figure that out. But it's got like a
That's
gyroscope
crazy to
inside
me.
the watch, right? So you can, in theory, use it and figure out like, hey, at what speed does it average like a normal shot recoil for somebody if they're holding a pistol?
Do you know if it's only exclusively for Apple Watches or is it for other
I'm pretty sure.
smartwatches?
Like last I heard, it was, but this was like a month or two ago.
For
So I
sure,
don't know if they're
yeah.
planning on going to Garmin or to any kind of
I
Android
mean,
watch.
that'd be great. I mean, I'm a big Apple person. I pretty much have Apple everything but the Apple Watch. I had the Apple Watch Gen 1 years ago.
Me too.
Back
Yeah.
yeah, and now I have a Garmin Instinct too because I enjoy hiking. I enjoy going out into nature. So I, long story short, I went up to the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, in February of all times, and I was like, I should probably get something in case I get lost. And I will admit, it did help me because I did get lost
Hey, you know
in the
what, Tyler?
winter and all the snow. What's up?
You know what, Tyler?
What's up?
Garmin, Garmin, please sponsor us.
Yeah, exactly. Garmin, please sponsor us. I love Garmin.
They make chronographs too. That we'll talk about that next episode. But
Do they
yeah,
really? I didn't know that.
yeah. And rounding out real quick on the practice score, I Apple Watch. I almost want to call it an iWatch, but I know it's not Apple Watch. Because it's not based on sound. If you're shooting around other people, so let's say you're at an indoor range, middle of the winter, or you're around like on a line of people practicing fire, like in a class or whatever, right? It's individual, so you will be able to track yourself, and it goes directly into the app too. So you'll be able to track yourself individually without having to worry about a traditional shot timer picking up other shots next to you,
Hmm.
which is really cool.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Wow.
So
Hmm.
Tyler, that's just one way of using a shot timer is for like match day stuff. You already talked about like your draws for practicing at the range. Obviously, a lot to do with practicing at range for setting. You know, if you want to set a what's the term? I'm forgetting like a par time. You can set that as well too. Um,
Yeah,
do you use one for dry fire at home, Tyler?
I do. I did not as much anymore. I did use it for dry fire once again for part time because I was curious, see what I could do with it, and to get that. I mean, I know I can get like those speed times that I want. The only problem is, am I actually accurate with it? So
Yeah,
that's where I can talk more about that when we talk about the dry fires segment of this episode of part two's episode, where I talk more about dry fire equipment. And I know we'd love to probably have our buddies back because they have even more experience with dry fire tools later on.
right.
So, but all that to say, dry fire, dry fire, dry fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
segueing from shot timers, because one of the advantages of the newer shot timers, and one of the guys on our USP, actually Daryl on our USPSA squad, has a newer shot timer that Bluetooth directly into the tablet that we use to keep score inside of practice score. So,
That's
one of
crazy, man.
back in the day when they used to do matches, they had to tabulate all of the scores, times, and everything. So what your basically your how many alphas, charlies, I guess back then bravos as well. That's how old it is. Alphas, bravos, charlies, and deltas. They had to record that and your time. They had to record it manually. I say manually, but they had to record it on a piece of paper.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so as you can tell, and then you have to tabulate those. And at the end of the day, it would take forever to figure out, and then post scores or even get scores out. People used to send them out on an email list instead of a spreadsheet, and calculating hit factor had to be done so manually or through a spreadsheet like calculation within Excel, right?
Hmm.
Big waste of time. Well, I think there's a couple of guys that, and I'm gonna be really wrong on this and get corrected on it, but some dudes with together and they started developing this program called Practice Score. Now there are
Hmm.
other electronic scorekeeping services out there. Practice Score is, from my understanding, free to use. They support about ads and whatnot. Um, but Practice Score is the dominant one out there, hands down. And with Practice Score, the nice thing is you can use it to actually like get people to sign up for your matches, right? And you can post your matches online. You can even tag geographically where those matches are. So if you're having a match in Michigan, great. Or if you're having a match in Germany, fantastic. You can put it on there. You can find out where your matches are just by like setting your area that you're willing to drive to. Sign up for the match. You can pay for the match. You can actually accept terms and conditions. I would be actually the wrong thing. Or you can set like a safety
Hmm.
agreement with the range, like we do at South Kent. Basically, it's sign this as I agree to waive my rights if I get hurt, blah blah blah. And then you can do all that. You shoot the match. All of the data is uploaded from the tablet into Practice Score, and you can get your scores within the same day. And it all does
That's
it for you,
amazing.
tabulates it. Like, we are in the golden age of scorekeeping.
We're in the golden age of firearms, man.
We are in the gold. Like, I don't think of like I'm sure there's more technology coming on the road, but like, what are we gonna go to lasers next? Um, the thing that's cool that
That's where we're
about
going to the diamond age.
yeah, the the
Moving on.
yeah, the practice score
Yeah.
has become so synonymous with matches. And it used to be that if you're at a major match, you had to do, and they may still do this USPSA, but you used to have electronic record with a paper backup. But
Mm,
now, because electronic records have become so high in demand because of their ease of use and the quick scoring that you can get out of them, most major matches are held at clubs, if not all now, are held at clubs that have Wi-Fi out on their shooting bays. Which,
mhm,
if you think about a traditional sportsman's club, you tend to think about old dudes, right? Unless you're thinking about like USPSA or three like right. So it's it in like lack of technology. Now our club actually has quite a bit of technology, like especially in the clubhouse, there's TVs and all this kind of stuff, right, for broadcasting. But a lot of clubs have started investing in putting Wi-Fi out at the range so that they can sync the tablet immediately with the cloud and not have to worry about losing scores off it. Because that's the major downfall of electronic scoring. If you lose a tablet, battery runs out, or it crashes, something like that, you could lose scores. But if you can sync immediately online, then you will have a backup of the scores inside the actual practice score website immediately, so you don't have to worry about it. And for people that like to game the system really hard, you could, in theory, go online, look at a major match, and look at how other people did on those uh, on that specific stage, figure out what the hit factor is, and then figure out what you need to do to be able to match them. Some people say that helps them. Some people say it doesn't because then you're getting it get inside your own head. You're like, I don't go fast enough. I'm not going to beat so and so. Right.
mhm.
Anyway, all that to say, practice score has revolutionized shooting sports to be in line with other sports that also use electronic scorekeeping, which I guess I just kind of thought about. That's kind of cool, huh?
That is really cool, dude. Wow.
Deep thoughts with Philip.
Yeah, that's great, man. Oh, dude. So do you have
Anyway,
any
so
closing thoughts?
real quick on the practice score stuff, Tyler. I know I talked a lot about it, and I have a lot of experience within practice score. Just curious if you have any like you came into the sports where this was always a standard.
Exactly. For me, this is something that I'm still trying to figure it out. I consider myself a fairly techie person. I mean, I'm 27 years old. Like, I grew up surrounded by technology. That's my life now. So a practice score for me, I'm like, yeah, of course it's there. And so it blows my mind to even think that not so long ago it was all written down. So practice score itself, I'm still trying to figure out. I kind of truthfully, I let Philip take care of it because we're usually riding to matches together anyway. So I'm like, hey man, how'd we do?
That's funny.
So I'm
What
like the old man for that. I'm like, I can't. I mean, you are an IT guy, so
that?
for me,
Yeah,
I'm not. Even though for some reason some people at my church call me that, I'm like, I'm kind of forced to do it to figure it out. I wouldn't call myself the IT person, but okay.
you've got like a six-person company, well, church. Like I've got an 89,000, or yeah, like she's bigger than that now because we
Yeah,
acquired a company. But
so
yeah,
true.
but it's funny. It is. I was just thinking about like the other day when we were out shooting USPSA. We shot a qualifier. And then as
Hmm.
soon as people get done, they look at their hit factor and they're on their phones Googling what that hit factor will get them from like a scoring perspective. So is it a GMM A B score, right? So
Is
it's
that how they keep? Is that how they do it?
yeah, it used to be that USPSA didn't like publish that information and it was like the secret sauce code in the background, but you could
Yeah.
kind of figure out what it was based on how other people had shot it. But now it's from what I understand, and I actually didn't realize it until somebody mentioned it this year, but it's all published. So
Oh
you can
wow.
actually figure out how you did. And that actually practice score does feed into the USPSA website, though I think USPSA tabulates that every Wednesday for how your classifiers did.
Hmm.
But yeah, crazy. Like
I
how
never
they
knew
do
that.
that and how fast that updates.
That's crazy. That's crazy to
But
me. Even that blows my mind, dude. Wow.
yeah, again, just kind of like rounding out this podcast real quick because you asked me if I had closing thoughts. Obviously, we're going to continue on with this, and there's a lot more things to talk about.
No kidding.
Uh, like we're going to talk about chronograph, lighted target indicators, those kind of things next episode. But like anything in this world, the technology is to enhance the experience. It's not to be the experience itself.
So true. It drives me nuts whenever I see like these videos on social media, which is really cool, and yet you're at events, or I'm not much of a concert person, but concerts or sporting events, and all you see is everyone on their phone. They're living the world through their phone. I get it, like you want to record it from memories, and but you're looking at the concert or the game wherever through your phone, man. I'm like, dude, put your phone down. Or I don't know, get like a head mounted camera or a chest mounted camera and just have fun with that and enjoy the moment. You could look at it later. It's kind of, it's kind of like people who record fireworks and post it. I'm like, dude, we all saw it. All right, I digress. Moving on. People who
Yeah,
do that, don't
right.
stop me.
And I think
Or
of
whatever.
I think of when shooting, right?
Hmm.
How you are, again, we talked about this at the beginning of the episode. You are inherently, you're using a firearm. It is inherently
Yeah.
dangerous. It's like any kind of tool
Oh
that, like a
yeah.
chainsaw. A chainsaw is inherently dangerous. Like a
Hmm.
jackhammer, it's inherently a saw is inherent. A drill is inherently dangerous, right? When
Hmm.
you are out shooting with by yourself or with other people, you have to be laser focused on safety at all times, right?
One
It's a
hundred
job of
percent.
everybody at the range. Yes, we have ROs that, their safety is one of their concerns as well too. But in the end, it is everyone's responsibility to be safe. So as a result, you tend to not be on your phone as much. Now, granted, if you're standing back and you're recording somebody else, which people do all the time, or you're checking this, like a qualifier, like we talked about real quick, and you're out of the way, right? Then other people, kind of quote unquote pick up the slack, right? It's just common.
Hmm.
But for the most part, again, the technology is an enhancement to your experience at the range and an enhancement to make you a better shooter.
One
Because again,
hundred
in the
percent.
end, shooting is still very much an analog experience between your like your body, honestly, and a piece of mechanical equipment that you pull a trigger on, and it basically, it causes the shot to go off, and you get either you hit target or you don't, right? And
Hmm.
you base all your data, all kinds of data on that, right? So I feel like I'm beating a dead red dot here, but all that to say, go out, get trained, use these tools as an enhancement to your experience.
Agreed. Is
Tyler,
that your dad
what
advice?
that is my dad advice. Tyler, what is your closing advice?
My closing advice is going to be completely non-related to
Oh,
firearms
I
or
feel like this is
even
this is
today's
very
topic.
par this is very par for the course at the end of our podcast. I tried to derail us again real quick, but I almost always give like advice related to the subject, and Tyler's like, meanwhile, apple orchards.
Pretty much, it's so true, and
Like
that's fine.
completely tangential.
It's so
But
different, and that's okay.
which
Well,
which which is good.
that's
That's
why
why
we
there's
have
two of us.
two. That's why we have exactly. That's why we have two hosts,
Yep.
because we give different perspectives. And I'm thinking of something that actually happened to me yesterday. I was out and I'm babysitting some friends' kids right now, and they have a 3-year-old kid, and we were at the park and we're walking and we're like on a trail, and he actually falls over and
Oh,
he gets back up and it's fine. I mean, it's in the grass, it's no big deal. He like trips and he's getting back, he's like, I'm okay. He's like, he gets up and I'm like, dude, good job. He's like, but I fell. And I looked at him and said, but you got back up. In life we're
okay,
gonna
Captain
fall.
America.
What's up?
I said okay, Captain America.
Oh my goodness, that's not where I was going with that,
I
but
totally
I guess it's
interrupted your
true.
advice. I apologize. Go continue.
No, it's fine. No, dude, you're good, man. But it's true. Like, hey, I can do this all day. But no, get back up. Life's hard. we're gonna fall, but get back up. That's my advice, man. Get back up. You will fall, and there's gonna be people around you. Surround yourself with the people who will help you up. Or there are times you might not, there might not be there, but you gotta get up anyway, because someone needs you to get up. So that's all I got. So thanks for joining us tonight for part one, because we were not expecting it to even be this long, but it's all good. Thanks for listening to us anyway. So
And it's
have a
okay
great
to
night,
get
everyone.
down if you're
What's
dancing.
up?
It's okay to get down if you're dancing.
Yeah, you're breakdancing.
But otherwise, get back up.
Well, you gotta get back up even in breakdancing.
I
All
don't
right,
know why
everyone.
that came to my mind because I'm the whitest man in the world and I cannot dance. So,
All right, everyone. Have a great
dancing,
night.
dancing
We'll
lessons,
see you.
please sponsor us.
Yeah, we'll see you next week, and we'll see you next week in part two.
See ya.
Bye.